Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this week's event, which is going to be on the Jagtar Singh Johal case as well as its recent developments. We would like to thank Bhai Gurpreet Singh Johal from the UK. He is Jaggi's brother, and he has been fighting for human rights for over 5 years now. Thank you so much, Bhai Saab. Feel free to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your work, and then take it on from there.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. First of all, thank you for everybody that's joined in and for giving me this platform to speak to you guys. Paisab's just said that I've been fighting for Jaggi. I'm Jaggi's bigger brother, but it's not just been myself that's been fighting for Jaggi over the last 3 years. It's also been you guys, because with you guys, it would have been very hard for me to do it myself. So first of all, just want to say thank you to everyone joining, and thank you for you guys for the continued support, the Radasa you're doing for Jaggi and the family to keep us in Jardikala, and also to overcome this plight that we are going through. So I am Jaggi's older brother. I am a solicitor in Scotland. I practice immigration and asylum law. I never ever thought that I was going to be speaking to Sangat and the masses, and I would ever have to defend the rights of my younger brother. So in October 2017, Jaggi travelled to India to get married. On 18th of October 2017, he got married, and a few days later, I left and came back to the UK. On the 1st of November 2017, Jaggi was supposed to come back to the UK, but he decided to stay with his wife and spend more time with his wife and do the visa application. On the 4th of November, just after going on Devji's Gurpurb, Jaggi was out shopping with his wife, and he was taken out of a car, a hood over his head, and taken to an unknown location. It came apparent afterwards Jaggi had been taken by the police, which we didn't know at the time. Jaggi then confirmed when he first seen his vakil on the 14th of November that he had been subjected to third-degree torture. Torture is something that you guys are sitting abroad. I don't see anybody that said they're from India, that we would never think that someone that's a British national would ever be tortured, because proudly some of us say, well, we have a British passport, we have an American passport, and Punjab police can't touch us. So it was astonishing to find out what they actually did, because he'd been subjected to third-degree torture, and where he had been electrocuted, been threatened to be killed, and to be burned alive. Advocate Manjpur, who's been fighting his case, raised this with the courts. To date, we've still not had an independent medical examination. What we have had is Jaggi telling us exactly what torture he endured over the 4 days. Captain Amrinder Singh on the 7th of November 2017 accused, and in an open press conference said that Jaggi was guilty of 7 murders of Hindu nationalists. I was in India at the time, and I was forced to flee out of there, because in India they'll normally target the male members of the family, and plus I had Jaggi's passport, which I gave to the British High Commission. I got back to the UK, and I was kind of forced to come back to the UK because of family members were worried that Jaggi is in the situation he's in. If me and my younger brother were also arrested by the police, then what would we do? Because they wouldn't know who could come after us. So came back to the UK that night. I've no shame in saying this. I cried to sleep because I left my brother in India on his own without having seen him. The Free Jaggi Now campaign started on that weekend in November. Within 3 hours, it was international. Everybody was talking about Jaggi. Diljit Dosanjh spoke about Jaggi. Canadian ministers spoke about Jaggi. Jagmeet Singh spoke about Jaggi. And everybody's Facebook pages, Instagram pages was all Jaggi. So if Jaggi is alive today, is because of you guys, because you raised his voice, you were being Jaggi at the time, and it put so much pressure on the Indian state that they couldn't do anything further. For many that are interested in the Shaheed Singh and Singhania's lives, you would know that Sikhs and youth were always encountered. And this is what we feared that would happen to Jaggi if we hadn't raised his voice and we were forced to raise his voice. So fast forward, Jaggi was then taken into Nabha jail. He was moved from Nabha jail to Tihar jail in Delhi in May 2019 when the Supreme Court said that witnesses had been killed, but they hadn't, and they just wanted to move Jaggi and 10 other co-accused from Nabha jail, Punjab to Delhi. The reason being, I don't know if any of you have seen, please do message in the box if you have, Jaggi did not have a dastar. Jaggi did not have his case. But when Jaggi was presented in the courts, he decided to keep his case and he came with a gold dastar. And every time he was coming into court, it was Chardi Kala he was in, as opposed to being in down spirits. He was always smiling, even though the situation he was in. And this was all getting recorded on social media. People were getting to see Jaggi and him being in high spirits. And this is what the Indian state wanted to stop. As a result, they took him to Delhi. So far, we've seen Jaggi 3 times in a court appearance, and we've not seen him since the last picture that we've seen of Jaggi was 16th of January 2021. So who is Jaggi and why has this happened? I don't know if many of you know what Jaggi did. Jaggi wrote for the Never Forget 84 website, where he translated Jeevaniya of Singhania, Singhs and Singhania, who became Shaheed in 1984, and documented about the human rights abuses carried out by the Indian state. Freedom of speech and freedom of religion we all have, and that's what he was exercising. There's a lot of pictures of Singhs and Singhania that would not have came to the forefront of the public domain if Jaggi hadn't done this research. I'm proud Jaggi did that research. I'm proud we have the pictures of our Singhs and Singhania that gave up their yesterday for our today. And we're sitting in the comforts of our homes, we're sitting in the comforts of outside of India and being able to express our freedom of religion and freedom of expression. This is why I think Jaggi's been targeted. Even if Jaggi was guilty of any of the offences that's been alleged of, i.e. the 7 murders that have taken place, then 3 years on he should have been charged, but he's not. Instead, the Indian judicial system has been made a mockery out of. Jaggi will be appearing for his 144th pre-trial preliminary hearing tomorrow. Then he has another hearing on Tuesday. He's had 50 trial hearings in which the investigating officer has confirmed in one of the cases there is no evidence against Jaggi. And the Indian state keep prolonging matters. The prosecution keep asking for adjournments and the judges keep allowing the adjournments to take place. The recent developments that have taken place are, whilst Jaggi's been in a prison for the last 3 years, he was taken unlawfully on another police remand by Delhi police. He wasn't presented to court, and the judge gave a 14-day remand for him to be interrogated on a crime that he's supposed to be involved in of a murder that took place in October 2020. We challenged the courts, and then it came to the forefront that Jaggi had been unlawfully remanded, and the judge called him back, at which point Delhi police said, we no longer require him. The current status of Jaggi is he has 1 trial going on, 8 cases in which he hasn't been charged, so no trial has even started, and 1 new case that's been put on him in order to keep him in the country in the jail for longer than he's already been in there. Jaggi is now facing the death penalty. For many that know that Jaggi has been accused to be a Khalistani, and the Indian state would want to try and kill off Khalistanis, and they would not think twice of giving him the death sentence and even carrying out an execution. Again, so people have raised their voice for Jaggi. They've become Jaggi's voice again. They've given the Parivar, myself, a lot of support, which allows us to keep fighting and being Jaggi's voice until he comes back to the UK. So, in a nutshell, that is what Jaggi's situation has been. What we have been doing is campaigning worldwide from November 2017 in Australia. The Sangat there stopped Indian High Commission people coming into the Gurdwara, not to Matha Tek, but to speak on the stages. The Canadians had every Gurdwara was banned. The Indian High Commission or officials would not be allowed to speak on the stages, which then spread into the UK. Jaggi's voice has been amplified around the world, whether it's been through TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere you see, people are always talking about Jaggi, and they're not just talking about Jaggi. They call him his brother, even though they've never seen him, but they have a lot of ways they try and help him to get back out of this unfortunate situation. Jaggi's wife is in the UK. It's hard for her because she'd only been married from the 18th of October until the 1st of November, getting to see her husband snatched in front of her eyes. So you can just imagine many of you that are married or about to get married of how a wedding would be a joyful occasion, and then for this to happen. So she's currently in the UK. She's also fighting for herself to stay in the UK because the Home Office have refused her application to stay. We won the appeal, but the Home Office have appealed that decision, and we're currently battling through that as well. So if there's anything that I have missed out that I've not said, please start dropping messages so we can talk about those and I can try and cover those first. Feel free. I'm reading now. I've kind of got the hang of Discord and how it's working. So I can see a few people putting messages in.
So,
So I've got
Paisa, yeah, one of the questions is, what should we do to get him back in the UK?
Hadi, I was more thinking, Gurpreet Singh, if there's anything, first of all, that I've missed out that people want to know about Jaggi, or it would be easier to try and give that information. And then if we do, how to get him back to UK and how do we continue?
Sure. So, if anyone would like to turn on their mics and give their thoughts on anything that Paisa might have missed, feel free to do that right now.
So in India, what they used to have was Tada, in which Sikhs would be arrested, detained, and kept in prisons. That was found out to be a draconian law. Now, what they have got is the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which is used basically for high risk, high crimes or high classified crimes in India itself. In essence, what that means is they have 90 days to produce a charge sheet, or they can extend that to 180 days. Once you're under this UPA, it's called Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, it makes it near enough impossible for you to actually get bail, because the state keeps saying that the gravity of offences is so high that you shouldn't be letting him out or anybody out. Most of the cases that are put under the UAPA are against Sikhs. 99% of the cases are against Sikhs. The conviction rate is actually next to nil. And even if they are convicted at trial, when it comes to appeal, they end up being acquitted after spending, on occasions, 5 to 10 years, or even 10 years, 15 years in jail. So what's uncovered? So Unlawful Activities Act, what they're saying is state terror. So what Jaggi's been said to Jaggi is that he was funding terror within India to cause disharmony, and that's what they put unlawful activities under. He's been accused of being a member of the Khalistan Liberation Front, even though if he was a member, it wasn't a prescribed group until February 2018. And by being a member does not actually mean that you are a part of a terrorist organization. So it's arbitrary in respect that they try and keep people as long as they can. For them not having to produce a charge sheet for 90 days and extend it to 180 days, it becomes a bit of an issue. So in India itself, human rights organizations haven't been of assistance. Amnesty India International had been sought for help, but they never got involved. To the contrary, Amnesty had said that Jaggi hadn't been tortured. And despite them saying that at the time, what we do have is experts saying that Jaggi's letter shows clear signs that he'd been tortured. And these are experts from around the world that had just analysed Jaggi's handwritten letter. So before going to India, good question, and respect of it, and something I have missed is, as a family, we travelled to India in April 2017 for Vaisakhi with my kids, and we also went to Hajur Sahib at the time, and Jaggi ended up getting engaged in May 2017. So the Indians had given Jaggi a 5-year visa. They'd allowed him to come into the country in April, leave the country in May 2017, and then come back in October 2017. So if he had been an issue, they wouldn't have given him a visa. And secondly, they wouldn't have allowed him to leave the country in the first instance. Jaggi's work had come out in respect of neverforget84.com through various sources within the Indian state, I believe, because Jaggi's seva for Never Forget 84 was Gupta. Nobody knew that Jaggi was actually behind doing the Never Forget 84 seva and doing the research. As one may say, he was a blogger at the time, and it's not a crime to do research. It's not a crime to learn about your history. And my suggestion to everybody on this call today would be, please do not forget our history, because the Jews are allowed to learn about the Holocaust. We need to learn about the wars. We also need to be learning about our shaheeds who gave their shaheedi to us. I'm just going to start going through the points and try and raise them. If Gurpreet Singh, is that okay?
Hanji Paji, yeah, you can structure it however you want. And Sangachi, if you guys have any questions, please type them in the question box. And if you guys would like to unmute your mics and ask the questions directly to Paisab, you can do that too. So go ahead, Paisab.
Take it. Can Sangha let me know if this kind of way is okay? If not, then please do drop a message in the box and let me know how you want to structure it. I've got no issues. Other steps the diaspora can take. This is a very good question. This is what the Indian state wants us to do. They want to silence us to talk about Sikh activism. We can't stop. Our gurus never gave up their lives for us. Our Singh and Singhania didn't give up their lives for us to now be quiet. We're a born creed to stand up against injustices. And if we're going to shy away from that, we're going away from our Guru's teachings. Yes, Jaggi raised human rights violations. Jaggi has been tortured. But what we need to make this an example is what the Indians want is, say, we're making an example of Jaggi. We need to give them a reply back to say, you can't do this. You will not get away with this. In 1984, 1947, 1986, you got away with this, killing our brothers and sisters and hiding it under the carpet, as one may say. But we're not going to let this happen. We're going to speak up. And yet, there's some people that are going to do it behind closed doors. There's other people like myself who have been forced to come to the forefront. When I say forced, it's my younger brother. If I'm not going to do it for my younger brother, then who else am I going to do it for? And if any of you were in this situation and it was Jaggi was in this side of the platform, he'd be standing advocating for you. He wouldn't step back, he would be there for you. And this is why we can't stop the activism. So they have diaspora Sikhs, there have been other people arrested in previous years. One of the biggest cases you've got is by Jagtar Singh Johal, who left Canada, left the comforts of his home, and spent many years in jail. And he's recently been released, and he's been a Pantik Sevadar for many years. And these are things, Chardigala things that you need to research and know about, because Bani has got them through. So Maharaj's Shabd and Gurbani is what's got them through. Currently, in Jaggi's case, I firmly believe that they need Jaggi in this case to make it an international conspiracy, because without Jaggi, there is no conspiracy. The Indian state want to make it about an international conspiracy, and otherwise all other co-accused are all from India. What else is worthwhile to know is one of the co-accused, who was supposed to be a mastermind, was suspiciously killed or died in an Indian prison. Another one was assassinated in Pakistan. So whilst Indians are making these claims that there are masterminds, they keep changing the goalposts, whereas we've not did that. Has anyone connect? So I have not been back to India since the 9th of November, and none of my family members have, because we are concerned if we go back that we will be detained. I certainly believe that I will be detained, because for the last 3 years I have been the voice of Jaggi and raising this at the highest level I can with other people. So at this precise moment in time, no one has. But in November 2017, Jaggi's wife was harassed. My Masi was harassed. Jaggi's in-laws were harassed, to the extent the people that were cooking the food at Jaggi's wedding were all taken away to be harassed and asked questions at the time when he had been abducted. And it all came back negative for them, but they did that as a pressure point. To this extent, whilst I was in India, my house was getting called here and my family were being threatened. If I didn't give them the passport, they would take my kids away. They would seal the bank accounts, and my kids would be sitting on the street with no clothes. And it was quite heartbreaking at the time, but we know that UK police wouldn't do that. So it was people from India that were phoning at the time, and because my wife's from India and family were just panicking as a result of it, and I knew that the UK police would never do that. So it was another a way of harassing the family to get Jaggi's passport. The Never Forget 84 website is currently down. It's been taken down. I don't have access to that, and we believe that it's been state-sponsored, taken down. The content of the website is archived. I believe that you can still be able to pick it up, but obviously it's not been updated since Jaggi's abduction and incarceration in the prison. UK government promised if a British national had been tortured that they would take extreme action. We're still waiting for that extreme action. And generally we believe that the reason that this is all going on is on the basis of that India and UK trade deals. UK need India more than India need UK. Britain leaving the EU has caused a bigger impact on Jaggi being given the protection that he should be getting, and as a result, UK have also always put trade in front of Jaggi's human rights. I firmly believe that's one of the main reasons that this is going on. The other reason is Jaggi's from Scotland. So for those that don't know, Scotland is a part of the UK, but it's separate from England itself. And most of the MPs are in England, do not associate with the SNP party, which is a majority party in Scotland itself, because they're looking for independence. So Jaggi is a brown boy from Scotland, and this could be another reason that it's not as much as that could be done is done. With that said, the only reason whatever they have done has been done is because of the Sanghat's pressure. Whether it's from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, America, they've been forced into doing things. They've been forced in it by UK. We had our first protest outside the Foreign Commonwealth Office in November 2017. Those pictures are seen now. They're used in videos. And at that point, when the campaign started, people were phoning the Foreign Commonwealth Office, asking them what they've done by Jaggi. They blocked the phones because everybody was asking what's going on with Jaggi. So they'd put them into that pressure that they were forced to do work and to make some kind of representations on Jaggi's behalf. So yes, a few months ago, Jaggi was given bail in one of the cases. The problem we have with that is that you need to have bail in every single case before you can actually be released and be out on bail itself. So currently he has 8 other cases that he needs to have bail in before he can be out of prison in order to be out on bail. So can you please touch upon the Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab met in India with his counterpart from what he's telling us. However, we've not seen, or I've not met with him yet to see exactly what he had said. Because each time we ask the UK government what they have done, they keep saying we're raising Jaggi's case at the highest levels. To the extent that Prime Minister Theresa May in 2018 also raised a case with Modi, but we don't even know what was actually raised. So they keep telling us this, but they also keep telling us at the same time that the reply from the Indians is unsatisfactory. It's not a satisfactory response. And also they haven't even investigated the allegations of torture, as they call it, allegations. So it seems to be that the UK keep telling us that they're raising Jaggi's case. All they have been good at is frustrating the family. I'm dealing with them directly on a day-to-day basis, and they could be doing a lot more than they are. And we raised this in November 2017, and now they're getting to see what we'd been saying 3 years ago, but that's 3 years too late. So international human rights organizations, a well-known NGO called Redress got involved with the campaign in November/December 2017. They wrote to the UN rapporteur at the time, and the UN rapporteur then wrote to India on 2 occasions, which meant that they were saying that Jaggi has been tortured, and we want a reply, and an investigation should take place on that. The Indians haven't replied back. Indians haven't replied back to the UN for nearly 20 years, and each time the UN have tried to go to India to do a human rights report, they have declined or not let them in. This is how bad the Indian state is in respect of human rights violations. Even just now, they've not ratified the Treaty of Torture and Mistreatment, because as many of you on this call would know, is the Indians are known for torturing people. And we're seeing this just now with the farmers' protests that are going around in Delhi. We've seen the human rights violations that have been taking place right in front of our eyes. And just because we've got social media, we're actually getting to show this and see this. And this is the extent of the issues that are taking place. UN are involved. They are still looking at getting responses from India, but India haven't provided the response to them. So that's where the downfall has been for UN. So it's not apparently. Jaggi was forced to provide a confession interrogation tape, and because the Free Jaggi Now campaign was countering each argument that the Indian state was making, in order to make people be quiet, they called this Kabulnama video that was then put all over all the main Indian channels around the UK and internationally. For some people, they were put off and said Jaggi's then confessed. Jaggi said that he was a part of this, and those videos are still available. And the video that allegedly was put out, the question that arises from it is, that was an interrogation video, and Advocate Manjpur spoke about this and said that give me Captain Amarinder Singh for 30 minutes and I can make him say whatever you want him to say. And you can clearly see that Jaggi was saying things, he was reading from a script and was told what to say. And that video is inadmissible anyway. But what did it say was, I'll say in English, that I was listening to Santaji's Tardivara. I had the photos of Sukha Jinda. Somebody wanted the photos of Sukha Jinda, and I was introduced to provide them the photos. Some Singhs came to see me, but because the Gurdwara didn't have any langar, I took them home. That's the content of what was in that forced video. There's nothing in it. It's inadmissible, and Jaggi's also been forced to sign a blank confession statement, which I've seen, which is dated on the same day that Jaggi said that his torture stopped. So again, you can add 2 and 2 together and make 5 if you want, or make 4 of what it actually is. And everybody on this call, my question or my point, if anyone asked you, is Jaggi's, or anyone that's saying Jaggi is guilty, would be, if he is guilty, why did the Indians not charge him, start the trial, and why are they delaying things for as long as they have been doing so? The footage is on. If you do Jaggi's confession video or Kabulnama video, you'll be able to find that on the internet, and it's there. It's to this extent that they had made claims that they had all evidence against Jaggi, bank statements. They didn't have anything. They had said that Jaggi had actually went to Pakistan, and now he hasn't been to Pakistan, and now they're coming back and refuting that they ever said that. So, as I said from the outset, is they keep changing their goalposts. Jaggi's a financer. then he's a mastermind, then he's a financer. So they can't get their own position correct. And this is why our MP and us have been putting this position forward is there's been no due process, meaning that the legal system is a farce. There's been no openness. None of the information provided has been given, and there's no transparency because the position keeps changing each time. Jaggi has had contact with the British diplomats. Again, usually they don't meet people for a while, but because of the Sangat pressure, because of the vulnerabilities of Jaggi, they were meeting him every 2 weeks. Then they were meeting him every 4 weeks. With COVID-19, they've not had visits with him, but it's due to that pressure. Whilst meeting the British diplomats, it's worth bearing in mind that it's not in private. There's always been people about, so he can't openly and freely speak to them and tell them of what the situation is. What he has said to them is he is frustrated that it's going on this long. Why is there constant delays and why does it keep going on the way it is? I believe we had started a process of and where Jaggi was receiving letters. We are able to write letters to him, but the only point would be that they are read. So whoever writes to him, they're vetted out, and he doesn't always get them. When he was in Nabba jail, anything that was written to him, he didn't receive. Some of the food that was sent to him was actually eaten by the jailers as opposed to giving it to Jaggi, and he was given a minimum amount of the food and cards, etc., that had been sent to him. So the only thing, the wariness about writing to Jaggi is people can write, but it's just well wishes as opposed to anything else, because what we don't want is the Indians to put something in there and then try and use that against him. So if you are sending anything to him to Tahar jail, then do write, but keeping like normal short and sweet messages, keeping a record of the delivery slip, because that will allow you to say, well, this is what I'd sent to him at the time. So yeah, you can write to him and he hopefully gets that message. What there is, I laugh about this now because whilst Jaggi was being questioned, Advocate Manjpur told us that the police were saying, tell your brother to be quiet. And he said, well, how can I tell him to be quiet? I didn't tell him to start the campaign. I can't tell him to stop the campaign. And even if I wanted to, how am I supposed to tell him when you don't let me speak to him? So I think it makes it a bit difficult. I've had 4 conversations with Jaggi during this whole plight that we're going through as a family. They've been very quick conversations. The very first one was literally 90 seconds, if that, because the time he was telling us what he needed, the phone cut out. So the second conversation was trying to find out what he needed. The third conversation will just so happened to be on my birthday, and then the fourth one was on after we had the protest in London outside Downing Street. So it seems to be that the pressure each time we put allows us to speak to him, but we've not had a call from him since. Are the Indians trying to? The Indians are trying to make it into a conspiracy by international. I think accusations have also been made against some people in Italy. Accusations have been made against people in Canada, and accusations have been made against people in the UK as well. But this is just their way of trying to make Jaggi a conspirator, trying to make him a mastermind. But as I said, it's all falling flat on their face. The thing that we have established through everything that's been going on is the mockery of the Indian judicial system. But at the same time, it's worthwhile noting that this has been going on against us for years. It's just that we've just not seen it because it's not happened to someone that's from abroad and not India itself. I think Jaggi's in Chardi Kala, and I think Jaggi's in Chardi Kala because he knows the Sangat are praying for him. He knows that Ardasa are there for him, and he knows that his family are fighting for him. So he's not just been left there. Jaggi keeping his case, tying his dastard, and reading Bani tells us what Chardi Kala is. So for me, for anyone in the Sangat would be that everyone should be listening to Bani, reading Bani, learning Bani, and learning about Khayas because it's going to make us stronger. When we read about our Chote Sahibzade, our Char Sahibzade, what they've done, if that doesn't make us stronger, I don't know what's going to make us stronger. If Guru Gobind Singh Ji giving up his whole parwar for us doesn't make us stronger and make us learn, then I don't know what else would actually make us. So it's history is what makes us. That's what our gurus have given their lives for us. That's why our Singhs and Singhni have given up their lives just so that we can be now their voice and be other people's voice. So 3 Singhs in the UK. So September 2018, there was raids of 5 Singhs in the UK. The raids were a part of shutting the campaign down or trying to make the campaign go quiet. The 5 Singhs were active, still are, within the Free Jaggi Now campaign. And this is what the target's always been. The target after Jaggi's abduction has been to silence us in the UK. Accusations were made against me. They were saying that I was collecting money for a liberation front. I was collating and conspiring against the Indian state. To the contrary, I was telling people not to collect money. I was saying to people not to make any money on Jaggi's name. No Gurdwara collect any money because when I need the money, I'll ask for it myself. And people don't need to collect on behalf of me until we're ready as a family of needing this. So that kind of shot them in the foot. They made accusations against me, and I didn't even have to answer those accusations because colleagues in my profession, people that know me, answered them for me. And the Indian state had to back down very quickly. So it's not new. The Indian state makes accusations against you. You stand up, you're standing with the truth. And Maharaj आपे ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੇਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਹੱਥ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਵਾ. So we had a conference in Birmingham after all of this had happened, and Maharaj's hukamnama was Madan Fateh Huniya, Bani Paro, Bani na Juro, the Vad to Vad Jinne na Joro Hunda Joro. That's how we've been doing. Our process in Maharaj. Maharaj will get us out of this. And a thing that I always remember is Jaggi's father-in-law. What he said was, son, we're in this together. We're in this through the sad times. But when things are better and when we're all happy again, we're going to be in this together. So with bad comes good. And let's look forward to the good times and let's get through this bad time together. He's a Gursikh as well. And that's someone that's just came into the family 2 weeks, married his daughter into our family, and he's giving me that hosla at the time. He's been a strong person. He's been going to visit Jaggi in Nabba jail when he was there. He's been attending hearings when Jaggi was in Punjab. And if you ask him to go do something, he'll still do it. So I can't ask for anything more than that. And that's what keeps us in high spirits, is with bad comes good. And what we think is bad, Maharaj has got something much better planned that we don't realise right now. I've always said that Jaggi was a person that was supposed to be subject to torture, and I'm his loudspeaker that Maharaj gave me the seva. Through that, we started up a charity called Sikh Legal Assistance Board, and we've managed to get 16 to 17 people out of an Indian jail with legal representation. Maharaj gave us that seva to do, and that's what our job was to do. So sorry, George, back to your question, which was the three things. We think this is a sweetener for the UK with India, just to try and put pressure on Sikhs and the UK itself to say, well, we can torture British citizens in India. We can also extradite British citizens back to India. And this is a policy that they're trying to use in order to put pressure on UK, put pressure on Sikhs around the world, so that they silence. But our gurus have taught us to stand up against injustices, and that's all we've been doing. All these violations have been taking place, have took place, are taking place to many people. With Jaggi, there's 10 co-accused. They were all tortured. Their families were harassed. Their sisters, their wives were mistreated. The only reason the torture stopped is because we became Jaggi's voice. We raised Jaggi's voice around the world. We continue to raise Jaggi's voice around the world. That's why I stopped. And other people were saved as a result of Jaggi. Those same people said to Advocate Manch par, "Paji, ਸਾਡਾ ਕਿਨੇ ਕੁਛ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀ ਜੇ ਜੱਗੀ ਨਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜੱਗੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਵੀ ਬਚਾਅ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ." So that's why the torture stopped to an extent, not because the Punjab police thought good of people. But with that said, there were some good people in Punjab police, from what we've been told when Jaggi was meeting his wife, that tried to look after them. And yes, there's those ones that tortured him and put him through everything that he went through. I think I've kind of answered most of the points that were put in. If there's other points that you're wanting me to go through, please let me know in the question box. Hopefully I've answered the Three Singhs question of the extradition. The Three Singhs will be fighting that case, and Maharaj Kirpa, they will not be going back. We will not let them go back, because we can't let them be Jaggis. We know what's going to happen if they were to be extradited from the UK, and we can't let that happen. We can't let our brothers down. Gurkaran, are there any other points that you guys want me to go over as well?
I mean, it's up to the Sangat. Would anyone from the Sangat like to unmute their mic and give their thoughts on the Jaggi case, how we as a community should move forward, or what implications this has? Feel free to do it right now, guys. As well as if you guys would like to unmute and ask any questions directly to Baisab or engage in a discussion with Baisab, now is your chance to do it. So go ahead, guys.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh, Gurpreet Singh Ji. I just had a quick question. Can you just talk about a little bit about the accusations of Jagtar Singh Johal, who specifically about the paying $3,000 to the former head of KLF, which is Khalistan Liberation Front, sorry, and if you know any about these, like, accusations, are these all baseless, or are there any truth to these accusations? Thank you.
So these are accusations that are made. So what I do know is Jaggi went to France as claimed in the charge sheet against him. What I don't know is whether there was any money given, and only Jaggi can answer that. But recently Jaggi has spoke to his lawyer and he said, "I'm innocent. I've not done anything wrong." And giving money to someone is not a crime itself. Even, let's take it a worst case scenario, if Jaggi had given the money, Jaggi gave the money in 2012-13, the alleged first murder didn't take place until, I think it was 2016. So you can only think, how far does that £3,000 take you? Was it enough to have that conspiracy for the first murder, and was £3,000 used for the 7 murders? So hopefully, if that answers that question in respect of it, the Indians don't have any proof, because if they had the proof, they would have actually charged him and made this trial go on. The person who he's supposed to have given the money to dies suspiciously on the day that the Modi meets Theresa May in the UK. So there's a lot of coincidence that's happening. There's a lot of allegations that have also came forward that he was suspiciously killed. He wasn't given the treatment itself that the person should have had within the jail. So hopefully that answers that question you just put. If not, please come back.
No, thank you. It does shed some light on it. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I just was hoping if you could just elaborate a bit more on how exactly Jaggi was identified, because as somebody who was using the Never Forget 84 website for a lot of years, we never knew who ran the website, so it was a big shock when he was identified and arrested.
It was a big shock to us as well, because we never thought that he was ever going to go through this. If he thought, or we thought this was going to be the case, he would never have traveled to India. So all we are aware of is that there was a person from Glasgow that had traveled back to India, and the police are saying that he gave Jaggi's name. Whether there's any truth in that or not, we don't know. Whether Jaggi has somebody in the UK has identified him or tried to get him into trouble, again, we don't know. But what I've not wanted to get into is these conspiracy theories in respect of who's did what. We are where we are. If we believe in Maharaj's Bana, this is what's meant to happen. This is what we're meant to go through. Nobody would have known Jaggi. Nobody would have known myself. And I would be on this call if it wasn't in Maharaj's Bana. So I hope that kind of answers the question, because I don't want to start pointing fingers at anybody, because I don't have the answer to that. So it would be wrong of me to do so, because the person that the Indians claimed that did it, I have no doubt that he was tortured as well. And we've not been in that situation. Jaggi's told us a brief summary of what happened to him, but if any one of us were in that situation, we don't know how we would react. I don't know how I would react under this kind of situation, with electric shocks to your private parts, to your sensitive parts, etc. So unfortunately, I can't give a more wider answer to that, because I don't have it myself. Hopefully that answers that question. But please come back.
Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you. So is there anyone else wants to come and voice? But there is someone that says, is there a certain person or group of people targeting Jaggi, causing all of this? Again, I don't have the answer to that. I can't say that there is or that it isn't, because if there was, then Maharaj ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵਾ ਉਹ ਕੌਣ ਆ, Maharaj ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨੇ ਗਲਤ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ, ਨਹੀਂ ਗਲਤ ਕੀਤਾ. So that's as much as we can take from that, but we can't point fingers of someone saying it's this particular person that's done it.
Why is hello Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Why do you think the UK government is so incompetent about raising Jaggi's case to, Modi or like Modi and all this? So, can you answer that?
Well, I kind of answered that earlier on. UK wants trade with India. India is one of the biggest countries to do trade with, and once they've got a trade deal with them, they can then say, well, we were right of leaving Europe. And what I personally believe is that UK, when they did their Raj over India, now India is coming back to say, well, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਆ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ, ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਅੰਕ ਕੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ. And that's what it is. I think UK don't have the power that it used to have, and India know that, and that's what they're doing in order to not address the issues that we've raised, put forward to them, because this is the biggest aspect of their side of it. So I hope that answers that question as well.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free if anyone wants to have voice conversations. I know there's other people dropping some messages. Is there more Sangat can do Ardas for Jaggi? Sorry, do you want to come in? Someone was speaking.
No, just really quickly, I wanted to ask, like, I know you already touched on it, but what would you say is like your biggest, maybe in one or two, like a call to action that we can take away?
But
Sorry.
Panji, your mic is staticking. Can you try to reconnect? Just disconnect and reconnect because your mic is like staticking. Or Benji, do you want to try typing your question in the question box if your mic isn't working properly?
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, sorry about that. So I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I just wanted to know what your biggest call to action would be. Like, what could we do now as a plan? Of course, our thoughts and everything we will do, but if some of us that are on social media, we want to go talk about it.
So the biggest call for me would be is the Ardas is one side, but also to write articles, write about violations that take place in India itself and what's been happening with Jaggi, which can be summarized in a very short way. Raise awareness within the wider Sikh community, because the Sangat is always with us, but what we don't have is we need more wider community, more Gori supporting us as well, because once they start supporting, they speaking, it makes a big difference. People actually listen. Apane bande listen when it's them. Look at to go back is in May 2018, India produced a charge sheet, and the only reason they produced it is because we had a protest in Geneva at the time. Redress came out and said any evidence obtained under torture is inadmissible. Therefore, before any trial starts, you would need to investigate the claims of torture. Otherwise, it would be a fair trial. If we had said that, you had said that, people wouldn't have listened, said, okay, whatever. But see, when some NGO said it, other people are saying it, it makes a big difference. And what I found with this campaign itself, a lot of youth that are coming forward, basic little TikTok videos, like random people are putting TikTok videos, random people writing poems, random people are writing articles and making pictures. This is what we need, is basically, and that's for us for the campaign. But I think for as a family side and as part of Sangat, what we need is for you guys to learn about our Itihas. Let other people know about Itihas, because one, it will make us stronger. Two, it will make us more confident to speak out. And three, it will allow us to actually be a known voice and known within the communities, and not just the Sikh community, outside the community. Does that help answer that question?
That helps. Thank you.
Thank you, G. Is there anyone with a voice question? Because I've got some other ones. Is there anything the Sangat can do to support the Jaggi or the family? Ardas, to support the family is Ardas is again as well. Keep raising Jaggi's voice. As I said, we do have a charity that I have set up called Sikh Legal Assistance Board. The Sikh Legal Assistance Board is not for Jaggi's legal fees, it's for other families. And the reason we started that is because ki pata kedi ardas lag jani hai Jaggi nu. We've got 16 to 17 people who we help with legal representation get out of Indian jails, and they're with their families. So our whole point is to do seva. So if you want to give any my request would be to give it to Sikh Legal Assistance Board so we can have more lawyers and we can have more people represented within Indian judicial system. Because through Jaggi's plight, we have got to know a lot of people that don't have legal representation because their families can't afford it and they're sitting in jails just as a result of that. And that's what we don't want. So that would help. And like I said, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਣੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਦੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਮਾਂ ਪਿਓ ਦੀ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਚਲੀ and they're back. I think there's an interesting name on here, Lord of Scotland. It was good to know there's someone potentially from Scotland. Is there a way for the Sangat and diaspora to stop the influence of Indian government? I think a way to stop that is actually highlighting the abuses. We've seen recently with Ambani, with WhatsApp, people are going off to that they're trying to stop. These are the ways to actually highlight the human rights abuses that take place, and that may be a way to stop influencing people, the Indian government. But also, we need more Naujwans and Singh, our sisters and brothers, to actually be more vocal within their Gurdwara, within their communities itself, because for so long there's been this side where the Siani have just let things lie and they want their Indian visas or they want their rights with the Indian High Commission, etc., which is then causing us problems. So request would be to start being more active within the community itself and using your skills, because that's what we've used as our skills. As a lawyer, I've been able to use my skills. There's people that are using their media skills, their artistic skills. So use these things to highlight things that are taking place in India, and this will actually help stop the Indian influence. We need more people in politics because in the UK itself, our politics has been infiltrated with Indians have put their people in. Eventually they've got there, so we need to get more people in politics itself. Doesn't matter which party you're going for, but as long as we've got voices there that will stand for the Pant, they'll stand for the rights of Sikhs as well and not sell us out. There are some templates available. A couple of sisters have put templates out for MPs for the UK, which also cover Jagi and the farmers' protests that you could also use. Sorry, I've got a message. Should we share? I've put a pinned tweet on my Twitter in which what it has is a breakdown. It's a 19-thread tweet in which basically breaks down what's actually happened to date, and that could be put out, or write something very brief and very short yourself, and that will help actually put out the information to people. A simple way of sharing awareness is British national has been subject to torture and mistreatment, denied a right to a fair trial, and is now facing the death penalty on crimes that he's not even been convicted of or charged on. Things like that wake people up because they're like, really? Is that actually going on in India? So that kind of helps us as well. You can follow me on Twitter and I'm putting updates. Also, the Free Jaggi Now handle is Free Jaggi Now handle. That gives all the information on Facebook as well. And you can pick out your points yourself of which points you want to do and which points you want to take out of it and which ones you think that are going to help within your friend circle and other people that you know. So apologies. So I'll give me a couple of minutes to answer these questions in the box, please. And if there's anyone with voice questions, then please do come back if that's okay. So, but how can we get Jaggi back to the UK? We will get Jaggi back to the UK, and whether we get Jaggi back this year, my heart says that we will get Jaggi back this year. But at the end of the day, if it's not this year, it's not next year, even if it's 10 years down the line, he's a British national. he's going to come back here. And once he is back, this is what the Indians are scared of, that Jaggi will speak about what happened to him. And when Jaggi does speak about it, it's going to then show what the Indians are actually like. So, Ardas apni ehi hai ki Jaggi will be back sooner rather than later, but he will be back. We know he's going to come back, and anything now they do will become an international problem if they try to do anything further. So it's remaining positive, and we will get him back here. I'm not able to get contact with Jaggi. He is allowed to phone me, and he has done so 4 times, and that's the only conversations that we have had with him, which have been very short and brief. So that's in terms of that cause. How legitimate is the death penalty? It's possible, because under the UAP Act, there is a death penalty sentence. Whether it's going to happen right now is down the line, because 1, Jiggy's not been charged, 2, a trial's not taken place, and 3, he's not been sentenced. But with India, anything is possible. As we've seen the most recent execution that had taken place of I think it was a Muslim person, and that was on the basis because he was gaining a high profile and people were supporting him. That's why they had to do it, to put people down. So there is a possibility, because India keeps saying Khalistani, and to put that forward, but there would be uproar if a British national had been executed, because as we've seen in Professor Pullar Saab's case, we've seen in Rajwana's case, when the Sangat internationally get up, it makes it impossible. But there is a possibility that it may happen just for the Indians to try and teach us a lesson. So someone's, Gurkhan's put the tweet in, this has got the big information, and that I'd put that tweet out and it went like wildfire. Everybody was talking about it, and that's got a lot of information. It is now outdated from July 2020, but it has a lot of information that you can use from there. So, VOG is an indication. Jaggi was picked up from Jalandhar and Ramamandi. He was out. That's where he was out shopping in itself. So he was picked up from there, and then he was taken to Baghe Purana, which is in Moga at the time. Okay, so I think I've answered all the questions within the question box. So if anyone wants to come back with voice notes, anyone wants to even... I'm not an expert in this. If anybody wants to give me advice, any guidance of what else I'm not doing, as a older brother, as a younger brother, I'll more than welcome any suggestions that you do have, because I'm learning at the same time. I make mistakes, I learn from them. So I'm more than happy to take any suggestions that you may have as well. So please feel free to come into a voice note or drop a message of what else you think I should be doing and that I've not been doing.
So again, Sangaji, feel free to unmute yourselves, and you guys can talk about the Jaggi case. You guys can give your thoughts on it, or you guys could ask Baisab a question, or engage in a back and forth discussion live with Baisab right now. Right now is your chance, so go for it, guys.
Okay, I'll go really quick before everybody else, sorry. But I just want to go back to the Amnesty International. So they said that they didn't find evidence of anything, like any ill treatment or any evidence of them hurting him by any way. And that's why they didn't proceed with helping.
So they hadn't made that public, but that was the information that came back to me by email, and said that their resources on the ground have said that there was no torture and all medical examinations had taken place. So they had came back with the same line that the Indian state was saying, that all medical examinations had taken place. It's normal routine. Jaggi has told the lawyer and even his wife that they would take him from the police station at the back of a van, get him to sign something without even doing any kind of tests. So that's something that's normal within India itself to do, and that's what had happened at the time. So I had went back to them and said, well, can you please come back with evidence? And that email was sent in January 2018, and we're now in January 2021. I still don't have a reply to that. So that kind of answered the question, that it was they just taken this stuff off the ground and just followed through with that, as opposed to doing actual any research.
So then your point of wanting an independent medical examination probably wouldn't work because this is how they operate there.
They do. So we were looking for. So what we've petitioned in the High Court is we don't want. So thinking outside the box, because I'm an immigration solicitor and I get a lot of people claiming asylum in the UK. So thinking outside the box, what we asked for the examination is we want a psychologist and a psychiatrist, because a psychologist and a psychiatrist would be able to determine whether a person was lying or not through the actions, through their interviewing techniques. We know that the signs have gone. They're not going to stay there 3 years on unless fresh torture has been implicated on them today. And this is a reason why it's just been delay after delay. There's experts ready from the IRCT in Europe, which is the Rehabilitation Convention of Torture, and they have said that we've got experts that are willing to do an independent examination in which they would take psychologists. And this is another reason that the Indians don't actually want it to happen, because they know that he would be able to say this is what's happened, or there'll be signs to prove that he had been subjected to torture and mistreatment. It goes back down to the right of a fair trial, because any evidence, and the Indian constitution says it as well, any evidence under interrogation is inadmissible, can't be used. And this is what they're trying to rely on, and then this counters the whole argument, because anything that they have potentially got was under duress and under interrogation. Does that help answer that question?
It helps answer it, but I definitely don't have anything to say about it at this time.
Okay. You're not from Amnesty, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out how to go about this, because obviously I don't lack legal knowledge outside because I'm Canadian, right? But in terms of awareness, in terms of who are we contacting and whose awareness are we trying to get on it, if we're not working within the way India's laws are, how are we even, supposed to do anything? So I'm just trying to maybe understand the basics so I can find enough to go research now on more. That's pretty much.
I think what would help is you don't need to have a lot of knowledge. One thing you need to do is doing the research on it. And secondly, if you can identify some human rights organizations that would potentially look at violations that India conducts. And that would be a starting point. Like INSAF have documented a lot of the Indians' violations. And then there's Human Rights Watch that may get involved off the back of that. And so it goes down to different ways. There's certain people, like the death penalty aspect, is going to appeal, as wrong as it sounds, it's going to appeal to certain people that are against the death penalty, full stop, guilty or not guilty, and they'll stand up for the death penalty. But when you talk about a brown man who's accused of terrorism, there's a lot of people that are automatically put off because they don't understand the wider context of what Sikhs have went through. And then there's other people that actually do understand, and you don't even have to explain anything to them.
Yeah, very fair. I don't know if you've answered this already. In regards to the death penalty, what is the new information? Like, what's the latest on that, and how did that come up? Like, were you contacted about this being a potential
So Jaggi's always been liable for potential death penalty on the 8 cases that were going on. But the new case that they've put on him, in which Jaggi is supposed to be involved in a murder that took place in October 2020, that carries the death penalty again. And that was one of the ways that Reprieve had got involved, because Reprieve had been working with me for quite a while, doing the research with all the documents, etc. And once they were sure, that's when they came in. And the position as when they've researched the documents is that there's only one part of evidence that the Indians actually have, which is a confession video, a confession statement, and the dates on it, and what it could potentially be against Jaggi. And if the way the court system works in India, do it, then he could potentially face a death penalty. And as a result, that's why Reprieve have came involved into the case itself, because it was an angle that was always there. It wasn't pursued. We had talked about it to the UK government, and it wasn't until one of the members in the UK government had said to me, no, Jaggi would never be facing the death penalty, that Redress had looked at it and said, actually, we might have to look at this, because this is something that's not out in the public domain. So it's always been there. The UAPA Act allows them, if sentenced and convicted, to have the death penalty, but it was something that wasn't out in the public domain. So that's why this came into the public domain.
Okay, those are all my questions. I just want you to know that me and a lot of my friends are on TikTok, on Twitter, so we're actively going to be doing as much as we can. I hope even anything helps, and I hope you're doing well as well.
Thank you. No, everything helps. It's a Sangat that keeps us going. It's a Sangat that gives us the energy and the family energy. So, as I said from when I started, Jiggy's alive is because of people like yourselves. People are on this call, they're on here because 1, they want to learn, 2, they want to help Jaggi, and 3, they want to bring him back home. So it's only people that I care are here. I'm grateful, and I don't have any issues with questions. I have no issues with criticism, because we're Sikhs, we learn from each other. And sometimes the younger actually end up teaching the older new techniques, and they come fruitful as well. At the end of the day, our goal is to get Jaggi back home, and that's why you're here.
So I have a question, Paisab. So basically, it's no surprise that India doesn't really like the NRI Sikh community, because here in the West, outside of India, we have certain freedoms that our Indian counterparts don't have, notably freedom of speech, better access to the internet, right? Like as we're seeing right now in Delhi, now they could just shut off the internet and stop word from getting out, right? So my question is, do you think the Indian government is purposefully doing this to Jaggi as to send a message to the international Sikh community that, hey, your gig is up, you guys can't do this in India, that if you come, we're gonna like send a message to try to like use him as a scapegoat to try to scare the international community? What would you say?
I think that's what they had tried to use, but it backfired on them. It backfired because this isn't 1984. We have social media. This is now what we have is people who pick up the phones, they'll start talking about violations that take place. And what they wanted is actually backfired. If anything, what it's done is people that were not active, it's made them active. People that some people that are already in the circles were not involved in activism, but after seeing what's happened with Jaggi, they've started becoming more active. They've started learning about Never Forget 84. They've learned about 1984, the Singhs, the Singnia. They're actually going back to do the research. So what Jaggi may have not been able to achieve whilst doing Gupta Seva, by the Indian state doing what they've done in the 21st century, has actually made people wake up. That if this is what they're doing in the 21st century, what did they do to us in 1984 and before that? So I think that would actually that actually puts the position forward for you as well in terms of that. Do you think the diaspora has went quiet? I don't, because I've seen Free Jaggi now trending, not just UK, Canada, America. In India, it's a bit different because they don't have the freedom of expression. Here, it's totally different. And a thing that I always say to people is, our parents came to these countries, they worked their backsides off for us to get an education. That education is now paying off because we're using that education, we're using our skills to actually answer back. A point that I'm not shy about either. One of the reasons I am a solicitor is because Jaggi and my youngest brother gave up their education for me to go on to study. I got my law degree. They started working in the takeaway in the restaurants. I qualified. Jaggi helped make sure I qualify. And Jaggi always used to laugh, "Koi sadde ghar vakeel haga wa," means we've got a solicitor in the house. And like I said before, I never ever thought that I would have to advocate for the basic human rights of my own younger brother. But this is Maharaj, is what he's given. It's a seva that he's gave to us, is that I'm supposed to be his loudspeaker. And it's not made me quiet, yes, but at the same time, there's a lot of people around the world that have not stayed quiet, but been Jaggi's voice, even though there's many on this call, maybe including yourself, that don't even know who Jaggi is. But at the end of the day, you're here. Your heart with what's been going on. So I think that, and I think it's backfired to be anything, if anything, and it's just made it. People are rising up and seeing the violations, and this farmers' protest is the best thing to show. Is in this day and age, it's still going on. We've seen some of the posts about different things, which people said, "My grandfather survived 1947. My father or my parents, our grandparents survived 1947. Our parents survived 1984, and we are seeing 2021." So it's like it's a generation thing that we're going through, and Panth will come strong and they'll come together. So I don't see that they were able to do what they wanted to do. As said, I think it's backfired on them because they tried to implicate Jaggi and making the various accusations, and they've not proven any of them. If anything, we've proven them wrong. Does that answer your question?
Haji.
Thank you. What is the reason? The reason for not releasing Jaggi right now is if they release him as it is, then there's a big black face. They've got big mud on their face because they've tortured a British national. They've kept him in a jail for 3 years, and they've not even been able to charge him. Jaggi had one case against him. One case. When it went to framing of charges, that case was thrown out. The likelihood is that all these cases are going to be thrown out. The other strong part of ours is we've legally represented him and made sure he's been represented, whereas a lot of Nojwans in India do not get represented and languish in jails for years on years. Do they see him as a big threat? Well, if he wasn't a threat, he's now a big threat because everybody's talking about Jaggi. Everybody knows about Jaggi. So it makes him, now it is to an extent, but I think what has happened is we have, through the Free Jaggi Now campaign, through the Sangat support, we have shown that India is not the democracy that it claims to be. Does anybody else want to come with voice note or question?
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Yeah, Paji,
Haji.
I was just wondering about the Sikh Legal Assistance Board. Like, how did those other cases play out? Were those people charged under the UAPA, or like how did they get off?
So a lot of the people, some of them are under UAPA, So we've got some of them out on bail. Some of them, the trials have been fought and they've now covered their sentences. So that's how it came about. So Sikh Legal Assistance Board came about when Jaggi had seen prisoners in Nabba jail. And then Jaggi passed a message through the Vakil when the Vakil came to meet me in the UK. And that's when we put it together, because Jaggi's like, okay, I'm being represented, but there's people sitting in jails for an extra year or even 2 years because they couldn't afford to pay the 10,000 or 20,000 pound, 20,000 rupee fine. So in India, what happens is you get sentenced, and when your sentence is over, you've got to pay a penalty. And some of the people that were sitting in jails couldn't pay that penalty and had to spend extra maybe 3 months, 6 months, or even a year in prison. Because one, for many years they've been already in jail, and secondly, they've got the families already burdened and they couldn't make the payments, so they stayed in jail longer. So that's where Sikh Legal Assistance Boards came from. There's a case you may have heard of, Amritpal Singh, who was a minor when he was detained, which became a high-profile case in India that was under UAPA. So he's currently on bail, who we've assisted. Bhai Malkeet Singh was a party in Harmandir Sahib. He has a hole in his chest. He's got TB, and he was recently diagnosed with COVID. We've been assisting him and trying to get him help to get him out of jail and out on bail as well. So there's various cases that have been picked up. As our legal team have been doing good work, it's allowed more people to actually get out and more people coming to us asking for support itself. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions that are in the box. Why has Indigo now? We don't know why Jaggi was specifically targeted, other than the only thing we can think of is that he eloquently wrote about the human rights abuses and violations by the Indian state on the Never Forget 84 website. Whilst us, many on this call, do not deem that to be activating as what India would say terrorism, but India would, because they see our Singh's insignia that were made Shaheed in 1984 as terrorists as opposed to martyrs or shaheeds as we would call them. So that could be a reason. Other foreigners traveling, this is a secondary reason why I've been fronting this. I don't want this to happen to any of you. None of us want this to happen ever again to anyone where we're subjected to this situation. So that's why we're making a stand to say that you can't get away with it. And that's the purpose of us keep doing it and being Jaggi's voice. And like I said before, other people's torture stopped because of Jaggi. So by being Jaggi's voice, we're being the voice of the other 8 people that are already in jail. I'm saying 8 because there's 10 co-accused. 1 has suspiciously died, and 1 wasn't in jail and he's been assassinated. So we're being their voice at the same time and protecting them at the occasion as well. So most of the older people I talk to have given up all hope. Often I hear a phrase, "Hon kojni hona," how do you say? So first of all, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Secondly, he's a British national. He's going to come back to UK, and if we just stop and leave it, we are letting down other people with Jaggi. I will continue to fight for Jaggi, whether it's myself left and it's just the family left. So that's never going to stop, and I'll use whatever contacts I've been using, make more contacts in order to get him back out of there. पर जे हुण कुछ नहीं होना, जे आपां कुछ नहीं करोगे फिर तां कुछ होना नहीं. So we need to be active, and that's what's going to actually make changes happen. An answer to that would be is give them like an example. If you failed an exam and you could say to the older person, Jehan, if I don't study, then obviously I'm going to fail the exam. If I study, I'll pass the exam. So I might have failed this time, but next time round I'll pass. So sometimes it's just using an example that they will understand. That actually helps change your mind. And at the end of the day, a lot of the older people that came to the countries that are not born and bred there, they never had jobs. But look at the hope after they got their jobs and they've got you educated. That's changed. That's the only way to change your mindset, is that we need to stand up to these injustices in order to make any change. It's like they say, some अपने कई बंदे कह देंगे lottery jet जिए, and when you ask them, have you actually put the lottery on, and they say no, how are you going to win the lottery? So that's the kind of example sometimes I use. It depends on the context that they actually say or how they're saying it, and then try and address it that way. And the only way to do it is depending on how you're speaking to the person or who's saying it to you, to try and address it that way. Jaggi's letter of torture, Jaggi had written everything down, and the letter was then given to the Vakil, and whilst he was going to court in Punjab at the time. Jaggi had also the names of the people that have tortured him, so we have the names, but Jaggi was worried that if he got caught with the letter, then only people would know about it, so the torture, but not the names of the people. So that letter was then given to Advocate Manchpur, who then sent me a WhatsApp of the photograph. So Badi's got the original, and that's why that letter came out of the prison. This time round, Jaggi was actually being presented in court when we got that letter about the torture. So that's how it was easy to get, because Jaggi was being presented at the courts itself, and this was when he was able to do it. How do we make change within our community? Sorry, I'm just reading this question. How do we make change within our Sikh community? I think the problem with this part of it is, it's not the Sikh community but the Indian mindset. I think it's more ਜੇ ਅੱਜ ਜੱਗੀ ਨਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਵਾ, ਜੇ ਕੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਗੀ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਖੜੂਗਾ, then what do we do? I think that's the aspect of it that might help change our mindset. The other mindset that might help change is, again, our parents teach us Sakya. Our parents teach us about the Sebjadi. They teach us about other things. Yes, we can never be like the Sebjadi. What the Qurbaniya they gave is beyond us. We can never do that. What Qurbaniya our gurus gave, we can never do that. But we've been inflicted with all these, and our gurus gave those Qurbaniya, and we are from that same ancestry. And I think sometimes it's not answering them back, but it's using our own itihas to give them the answers back. And that's what would allow us to change that mindset. Hopefully I'm making sense with that answer, but I think that's just the way I've addressed it, is try to say, well, yes, we can't be on the same level as our Sebjadi, our gurus, but we can still take away from their belief and take that forward, because that's what we've been taught. Jaggi was born in 1987. Jaggi wasn't even born at the time 1984 took place. The research started, I think it was many years after that, after maybe 16, 17 years old, when he'd started doing the research, when he'd start learning about the injustices that we were suffering and we were going through. So I think that's more when the research started. Many people have actually said that Jaggi wasn't even born when it happened, but I remember the BBC documentary that was made, And in the documentary, Santaji was made out to be a terrorist by the BBC. And we were sitting there, my nana's sitting there, and he's like, "Tusi ki dekhde hai?" And we told him that, but like being born outside, you just read the narrative that the media is correct. What my nana said, my nana's unpad, he's not educated at all. He came to this country many years ago illegally, and he set up his life here and made a life for everybody else. He's like, "Je Sant ji na hunda, te aaj Sikhi nahi hundi." And that's the Siani that is giving you that information, because they were there at the time. They were there when all these things were going on at the time. And he goes, "One shan rakh li Sikhi di, pag rakh li, nahi ta sab kuch janda lagna si." And this is the Siani that the older generation that actually seen what's happened is what gives us, and we're like, "Nanne nu kida pata wa?" He's old. He's not educated, but then he start telling us the stories because obviously he's heard them. He's been a part of it. Then my dad spoke about it because my dad's from India and he came here and set up life here. And Dad said that there was a time that Santaji had came to our village in Punjab, and at the time he goes, it was full. The Sangat was there was too much Sangat there. But he never actually got to see Santaji, but he's seen the Sangat and the mahal that was made when Santaji walked through anywhere. So I think it's that kind of aspect of it. There's a lot of people, and I was reading something on Twitter the other day, which was these parents that have left India. They had the stara, they've cut their hair to be here, started drinking, etc., just to forget what they've been through. So I think it's trying to get that middle ground to speak to them, to understand what is it, what they're scared of, and trying to find a way forward. So hopefully that answers that question. So apologies for it being long-winded. As a person who's living outside the UK is calling the embassy. Is it the embassy, the Indian embassy you're talking about, or the High Commission? So can you, the person that asked that question, can you please just confirm? So, because you're in America, I would suggest you write to the American government. And what you would write to the American government is, this is the pressure, and I want you to write to the UK government and the Indian government. That's what's going to put pressure, because someone that's like in the UK, we write to a member of parliament who's the MP. And what that does is then they write to the government official. So if you were to write to your member of parliament in America or the American government or whoever your representative is and say, this is an issue that I have and this is what I want you to address on my behalf, and I want you to write to the Indians to find out what they're doing in this case. I want you to write to UK. That's representations. That's what puts pressure on the UK government and the Indian government through your own government. So whether you're from America, whether you're from Australia, whether you're from New Zealand or Canada, this is the pressure that's going to be built. So the people that are from Canada, Amarjit Sohi, who is a minister, in 2017, when Jaggi's torture came out, he publicly said that I understand what torture is because I've been subjected to it. So this is the kind of stuff. There are ministers, there are people that have fled from India and been in this abuse, and you don't know who you're going to touch. You don't know who you're going to end up interacting with. The reason I say that is because there's people within the governments that might actually help you. You might end up meeting somebody within the UN that might be able to also help you, or a human rights groups. I'm going to give you just a short example. I had a sister, after the death penalty aspect, wanted to do something for Jaggi, has reached out to UN, got a reply from the UN, then reached out to myself to try and help and introduced me to that person in the UN. The sister doesn't even know me. She doesn't know Jaggi, but she knows that she wants to do something. And that's the kind of extent. There's two sisters that wanted to draft a letter for the farmers issue, Jaggi's issue. Off the back, they've went on and drafted something which allows people to use as a template, fix as they need to fix. There's other people that are like one of the Benjis that were asking questions earlier. She's on TikTok. What they've got is other people out with the community making videos about Jaggi, 60-second videos, and they're going viral. And if anybody's on my Twitter or you guys are on Twitter, if you look at my post from yesterday, I put a post up every day in which it says today, Monday or Tuesday, the date, Jaggi's incarceration, 1185 days, 86 days. And the video that we put up, sorry, it's not this one, it's the one before that. So basically in it, it's a video from Johnny Nutton's song, and that's going viral. There's over 4,000 views on it, and I've put that up about 10 times. And at the end of it, there's a clip and Jaggi saying, yep, this one. So there's a clip at the end of it, and what Jaggi says, it is a kanaki in Safia. So it's stuff like that that actually then makes a lot of difference. And there's other people doing the videos themselves. So there's various ways of doing it. There's a lot of Nodge ones that have various skills. And my request to anyone on this call is, let's please utilize those skills. Let's put them to use in any way or form. Some people have website skills that I could utilize with, and it can help me. There's people that can help on social media with just simple messages, and that's how we do it. So I hope.
Oh, sorry. So, Sangaji, if anyone would like to help out Paisab, please message Paisab on Instagram, follow them on Instagram, GS Johal85. The link is in the announcement section, as well as follow Free Jaggi Now as well on Instagram. Sorry, go ahead, Paisab.
Hanji. So, like, you can come on there. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. My personal one is GS Johal85, and I normally tweet out of there. Free Jaggi Now one also tweets out all the updates. So if anybody wants to help out, you can message on the Insta page as well, and or you can email freejagginow@gmail.com. Let us know what skills you have, and we can put them together and form a team. So, like I'd said, thank you that Jiggy's alive. I'm going to say thank you for all the continued support, because there's things that I've not even thought of people have done. The people have got other communities. There was a Muslim Kuri that made a 60-second clip, said, I'm not even Sikh, but this is injustice. It shouldn't be happening. And before you knew it, it was viral. And everybody's looking at it. If you like singing, sing a song. If you like writing poetry, write a poem. If you have a poem that you want to put out, let us know, because there has been people like Singh Mahoon, Avneet Kaur, who's actually read the poem out, and we've put that out as well. So if you don't want to read it or sing it out yourself, we can try and get that done. And that's another way of putting voices out, because it's videos that we're sharing that are actually helping raise more and more awareness, because they get shared very quickly as opposed to reading them out. So any guys got any more questions?
Also, Paisab, yeah. So, some users were asking, could you please give like a brief summary of what you have said for the Sangat that joined in late? So just like a general summary, doesn't have to be too in depth.
Yeah, so what we've talked about is what Jaggies went through from November 2017 until present. We've been having a discussion of what work Jaggi was doing and how the community can help with Jaggi's campaign to try and get him back home. And various questions were asked as to why Jaggi's in that situation, under what act has this been happening under. So it's been a good conversation on my side, and I'm grateful for the people that have actually put the voice note out and speaking to me, because it makes it a bit more interactive. So that's the discussions we've had. Most of the information I've said is available on either my Twitter or the Free Jiggy Now Twitter handle, Facebook. It's available on Instagram, and also we have a charity that was set up called Sikh Legal Assistance Board, in which we've helped people get out on bail with a legal representation, and some out on cases that are now freed up, so they're now with their families itself. So we've talked about some of Jaggi's work that he did for Never Forget 84, writing about Jeevani, about Singh's insignia, and potentially why he may have been targeted is because he was writing out about these injustices that were taking place, and basically how can people help to raise Jaggi's awareness. So in brief, I think that's what we've been talking about, and I've been welcoming anybody's criticisms, anyone's advice on how we can make it even better and get Jaggi back quicker.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yes.
So the first one is really, there's been numerous other people, like you mentioned, Professor Buller before, who have been detained under similar charges, and others in the UK. Have you managed to make contact with their families to find out how they were able to secure their release? And the second question is, can you just tell us something about Jaggi, some memories that you might have of him, so that we can maybe take away something about him as a character? Because I don't really know him as a character, so it'd be quite nice just to hear something about him, if you can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the first question about Professor Puller, it is a legal system that we need to also go through. We need to fight through fiercely. Professor Puller was extradited or deported from Germany, and he has fought through the system. He's fighting for his parole and to be acquitted. So he gets out on parole, and then he's back in. So that's what it is. It's a legal team more than that can do it. So I'm working with a legal team that we have in Punjab, Advocate Manjpur. We've got a legal team based with the High Court and the Supreme Court. So it's a legal process that we need to follow whilst still applying the pressure to make sure that the legal process is followed in a timeous manner and not allowing it to be delayed as much as it has been. So that's the kind of information we've been taking. There's been other people whose extraditions have been stopped from the UK, so we're also in talks with their families of what else other pressures we can put. Generally, we've just been stuck with Brexit, because Brexit's taken up a lot of the UK time, and because UK needs trade with India. That's been our biggest downfall of it. In terms of about Jaggi, so there's three of us. I'm the oldest, Jaggi's a middle brother, and I've got a younger brother. Jaggi's an Arsenal supporter, so if you're from the UK, that's a football team, or soccer if you're from Canada, America, etc. Jaggi had went to a football match, and his favourite team were playing against Celtic, who are from Scotland, and Jaggi was in the Celtic's director box. So when his team scored, even though he was in the opposition box, he was jumping up and down, and my youngest brother was with him, and he's told him to calm down because he's in the wrong director's box. He's not in the Arsenal's director box. But other than that, he's a happy-go-lucky person, really close with my children, really connected with them. He likes reading. He always said knowledge is power. Always said that if you're going to have a debate with someone, make sure you know what you're talking about. And something he'd always said to me before, and it's a point I always take, is the 5-second rule, which is think before you're going to say something, because sometimes you end up saying things and then you think, shit, I shouldn't have said this. So I always laugh about it, because he's like, just count to 5 in your head before you speak, and does it make sense? Previously, what I've said is, I'm a solicitor today because of Jaggi. They gave up their education and allowed me to go on and study. I've been able to, they worked in the takeaways in the restaurant industry. He's a smart kid. Saying kid because he's my younger brother. And if he had went on to education, I think he would have been far further out than I am at the moment. I think that's about it. He's happy-go-lucky, as I said. He's interesting. He's funny. He can make friends in an empty room, because he'll just go and speak to people and ask them questions. He's not shy to ask questions, and he's like a stubborn person as well. So he would stand his ground. If he thought something was wrong, he will not just let it go. He will stand his ground, and that's what I think has got him through where he is just now, because he's strong-minded. He's not weak-minded, and I think that's why Maharaj put him where he is. Does that help answer that question?
Yes, thank you. You don't hear very many Scots who support English football teams. Thank you.
No. There's a lot of Scots that support English football teams. They don't support England, but they support English football teams. So is there any other questions or anything else that I've missed out? I think we've changed the routine by having the Q&A built in within, but if there is a Q&A you want to do now as well, I'm happy to do it.
I think all the questions were already said, so yeah.
So again, it's back to the Sangat of if they want me to answer anything else, or are you happy to call it a day? It is 10 o'clock in the UK now, so I'm in your hands.
All right, does anyone have any final questions for Paisab? Or final statements or anything they'd like to say? Any closing statements or anything?
Yeah, can I just say that we're standing behind Jaggi and we'll do whatever we can to get him back to the UK. So you can count on our support.
Thank you, G.
All right, on behalf of the Sikh Reddit and Sikh Discord, I'd like to say thank you so much, Paisab, for joining us today. It really means a lot for you to join us on this last-minute event that we planned. As soon as we heard about the whole death penalty, we're like, hey, we have to get Paisab on here, because you were actually on our one of our most requested speakers list for 2021. So thank you so much for making that possible and for engaging with the youth, for giving the youth the accessibility to speak with you directly. Thank you so much for that. If you have any feedback or closing statements for us or anything, just feel free to let us know.
No, I would just say before I head off is please, Benti, is read about your Itihas, read about, take Gurbani as your power source, because with Bani, it keeps us strong, it keeps our mind focused, and it makes us stronger. And Maharaj Palai karda wa, what we think is bad, there's a good out of it as well. And from what's happened with Jaggi, I wouldn't be speaking to all of you guys today if it hadn't happened. There's a reason why it's happened, and together we'll get him back. Without you guys, I can't do it alone. And my beinti to all of you is to please keep supporting the Free Jaggi Now campaign, myself and the family, and keep your adasa, and not just for Jaggi, for the rest of the Singhs and Singhania that are in prisons, and keep your adasa for the farmers' protest, because there's a very big Sangharsh going on just now, and the human protest that we've ever seen and will ever see in our lifetime is going on just now. So please stand up in whichever capacity you can, get more involved, and even if it doesn't mean being in the forefront of things, doing it from the background, please do get involved and be a voice for the voiceless. And that's my bounty to everyone. And without you guys, I can't do this alone. So your continued support is appreciated. I thank you for inviting me here today, and I thank you for everybody listening and participating and giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Baisab. Sangachi, can we get a proper loud Jagara, please?
ਗੱਜ ਕੇ ਨਿਹਾਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ ਫਤਿਹ ਪਾਵੇ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਿੰਘਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਨੂੰ ਪਾਵੇ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਤੇਗ ਤੇਗ ਫਤਿਹ ਹਰ ਮੈਦਾਨ ਫਤਿਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us today. Please follow Jaggi's brother by Gurpreet Singh Johal on Twitter. His Twitter is gsjohal85. Follow the Free Jaggi Now campaign at Free Jaggi Now, and then check out the Sikh Legal Assistance Board, who are helping free Sikh prisoners in India. Thank you so much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.